is going on, everyone? So now it's time for the film reveal. I just got back from the trip a little less than a week ago and dropped off my film, picked it up from the lab. I use North Coast Photographic in Carlsbad, California. So I have my A7S II above here looking down at the light table. And I'm just going with a GoPro from this side. So the quality is not gonna be quite as good as what I normally use, but the GoPro does not overheat. So it'll keep going for a long time, unlike my RX 100. But I've got 27 sheets of slide film, and I've got 11 sheets of color negative film. The film is in protective sleeves, and you'll see it as I see it. So let's go ahead and start with the film reveal. All right, so this is a photo I didn't really think too much about when I shot it. It was just something that was kind of there, and it's decent. I mean, I wouldn't say it's like a super amazing photo, but the color turned out pretty decent. Sharpness is quite good. So technically a decent photo, a little bit of wind movement. But it's one where I didn't think too much about when I shot it. It's just something to aim my camera at. So it's one of those ones where maybe in time my perception of it will change, but no real surprises. It's just kind of all right. Next up, let me arrange my film here so I can get to it a little bit easier. All right. So this is Velvia. It's definitely Velvia being Velvia. It went really blue in there. I shot this on color negative, which I think is probably going to be my best bet for this particular scene. There's some pretty cool trees in the slot canyon, but I knew this was beyond a reach of what Velvia could do. But I mean, I like the shape of the trees. I like the fact that they're softly backlit. But this one went really cold, and I'm a little bright back in there as well. Turn my hat around here so it doesn't get in the way. A decent composition, just colors are a little funky on it because Velvia. Another scene I photographed, this was alongside that first photo. And again, I'm not really digging it. I just thought maybe the rocks down here might be kind of interesting as far as it adding something to the composition, but no, to me it just looks like some dried up branches and stuff. So, not really digging it, but no real surprise. So, this was this cool tree that I found. This was in the main canyon. And I have two different compositions on this one. There's a really bright spot right here. And I have one composition where I move closer to tuck that back behind the tree, which is what this one right here is. But I think the other one might be a little bit better because it's a little bit of a looser frame around it. This one definitely went a bit cool. There's warm light on the tree. Let's check sharpness. Sharpness is fantastic. Super crazy sharp. So this was taken with my Fuji 240mm lens, which is this tiny, tiny little lens. It's okay. But I'm curious about the wider view of this scene. But exposure's good. Exposure's good, color's okay. Could warm it up a little bit. Warm this up, but it's all right. A few days after shooting that tree, I returned to it and it was basically stripped bare. So this is Provia, and just so you guys can see a comparison of Velvia versus Provia, and how it handled this exact same scene. So Velvia, which is quite frankly maybe a little garish. Provia, so kind of a softer color palette. Still went quite cool on the trunks there. But Provia definitely did better. What I'm really curious about is the color negative, because when I scan that, I'll be able to warm things up a little bit. And this one right here, when I scan it, maybe if I warm it up, maybe that'll help things out a bit. I mean, I don't hate it, but I'm really curious about the color negative and how that looks. So here's the wider view of that tree. What's interesting is the light also looks a fair amount warmer, but maybe it's just because I have more grass here. This is a light colored area that was distracting, though I could probably, I mean, it is very distracting. I have a feeling that I could just kind of do a little cloning job there, because I definitely prefer this wider view, because you see more of the slope, it grounds it more. You have a little more breathing room on the different sides of the tree. So there's the full composition there. It's a decent shot. And again, super sharp. The wind was very cooperative that day. Good color. I like the bit of warmth there in the trunk. I definitely like this better than the previous one. But I'll have to scan this and kind of get a feeling for how it is if I were to clean that up. But it's sharp, and it's a red maple. Red maples are awesome. This is a second sheet of that same scene from the earlier composition. Again, kind of a closer view. I'm tucking that bright spot back behind the tree there. And there's another bright spot over here. I'm curious how that one shows up in the... Yeah, either of them are going to have that bright spot there. But here you get a feeling for the composition. There's the closer view, less breathing room around it. You have less of the grass in the foreground, but you hide that spot there. Versus this is more breathing room. You see a little more of the surrounding trees. So definitely better composition. I'll just have to kind of work with that. But from a sense of exposure is good. Sharpness is good. So be nice to scan those in, kind of see how they do. This is my super crazy chaotic scene, and man, that branch stands out so much. It's a little cool on the color. In real life, it was a bit warmer. I was just trying to, this was kind of an experimental shot, just aiming my camera at pure chaos. But man, that really stands out. I think because it went quite bluish with the light I was getting from the sky. I'm not sure I'm digging this one, which is probably good because my focus isn't all that great anyways. I tried to focus between the two trees, but with my 600mm lens, I can't quite get everything. Definitely not in love with this shot. There's some parts that are sharp, but it's kind of an experimental shot, but no bueno. Then here's another sheet of that same tree. Same composition, same exposure. Again, I think that's the stronger of the two different compositions, the close versus the far. So I have to work with that area up there. But I think it's a pretty decent shot. We got one I'm happy with. Here's the roots. And Velvia went a little intense on this one. I thought I'd like this more than I do. It needs to be cooled down a little bit. It's a little too warm, a little too yellowy. Depth of field is not great, which I kind of had a feeling that would be the case. I mean, I'm decently sharp. I'm okay. I think I'll need to to scan it and cool it down, but depth of field's definitely an issue. I thought I liked this one more than I do. This right here is the proper orientation for it. I'll have to scan it, but can't say I'm digging it. We'll see. There's a lot of film to be not really blown away by stuff. Same scene as before. So basically, this tree right here is one of the more dominant trees in there, and I'm focused actually just behind it, so it's not quite as sharp as I'd like. The mid-ground trees are in focus, but it's just not a great photo. Come on, give me something here. Oh, I'm underexposed. I was worried about that. I thought this was gonna be a really cool shot, but I am underexposed. I was worried I'd be overexposing it. This is not a good turn of events. I mean, there's detail there. It might scan okay. But I'm a bit dark. I think I forgot to add the bellows extension factor on it. Composition-wise, it's okay. I was just trying to find a way of framing the chaos. This rock was dominant. This rock was dominant. I've always wanted to shoot one of these rocks. There's some good textures there. I mean, I'll have to scan it in, but I think I have two different exposures on here, maybe one brighter than the other. Hopefully this is the darker one, because that's not very good. Another version of the root shot. Again, I'll have to scan it and cool it down a little bit, but yeah, it's just a little too intense. We got like one shot I'm happy with so far. And this one's okay. It went really cool for the background. I'll have to scan it and see how it does. Warm it up a little bit maybe. The good news is this is fairly green, which is nice. It had lost a lot of its color. This is one I'll have to sit on for a while, because my first reaction is that it's not quite like how the scene looked in person. And that bumps me out a little bit. But exposure's good. There's no wind blur. And this is the Velvia, so I'll have a Provia shot of this as well. And also I think I have a Ektar exposure. So it's a little bit experimental. I'll have to revisit this one. But my first reaction is it's not quite what I saw in person, so it's not really what I was hoping for. Another shot of Velvia. I guess I shot two Velvias and then Provia and an Ektar. Sharpness is quite good. So that's good at least. I think this is one where I'll have to scan it. But my immediate reaction is that it's not quite what I was aiming for. But sometimes those photos have a way of surprising me a little bit. Then here's one I shot early on in the trip. This one has some wind movement in the background. I'll have to scan this one and warm it up, but there's actually a fair amount of wind blur there. I think I remember that this one definitely having some wind motion on it, but composition-wise, it's decent. Again, I'll have to scan it, but it's not really what I was hoping for. This is becoming a little bit of a bummer now. My pile of film is getting smaller. So here's a version of that shot without wind. And again, Velvia just went really cool in that light in a way that I wish it didn't. It's crazy because the light can look so beautiful when you're there, but the film just sees it differently. And sometimes it can be a good thing, but in this case, again, I'll have to scan it and see how it does, but again, I was hoping for something a little better. This is the first photo I shot. There was a windy version and a non-windy version. This is definitely a windy version. Which it's interesting with the motion, but again, it's not what I was hoping for. But we'll see how the next one does. All right, film pile, let's get some good stuff. Now this one's actually pretty decent. Now this was the first photo I shot on the trip, and it's this low-growing branch. And I knew that these warm-colored leaves would move forward, and then you have the rocks back behind it, and they have kind of cooler tones. And the color of the rocks and the branches were similar, so they would kind of match a little bit. Except my sharpness is horrible. What happened? Nothing is sharp. There must have been a slight breeze. Because otherwise I kind of like the photo, but it's not sharp. That's a shame, because I was actually starting to like that one. Well, okay, now we might be onto something here. So these trees hanging out over those pile of rocks here, really good colors. Sharpness is decent, though there's a little bit of wind. Honestly, I was expecting this to be sharper. It's gotta be wind. A slight breeze. That's a bummer. I have more sheets on that scene now. Okay, slightly redeeming. This is a brighter exposure of that one scene. I'll have to scan it. You know, it's not bad. And in reality, the exposure is probably fine because I definitely did not want to overexpose those areas there. But just looking through the loop, I feel like it should be sharper. So this scene I shot on several different film stocks. I'm decent with it. So there's the full frame. So we have a nice glow back here, some good fall color, wash. I like these three trees here. Odd numbers are usually quite nice. Some desert varnish back there. There is wind, though I shot several frames of the scene. This one's definitely affected by wind. And other than the wind, the sharpness appears to be pretty decent. So hopefully have a less windy version of that one. Okay, another version of this scene. I'm really hoping that this one isn't blurry. This one's looking better. This one's decent. Okay. So for this scene, the other one had some wind. This one's okay. It makes me feel a lot better. This one's actually sharp. Thank God. I also have to warm things up a bit, but this one's okay. It's getting scary. So, I have maybe 2 photos I like from this trip. Here's the scene on Provia. Super calm, no real wind. And this will definitely scan a lot better than the Velvia. I have better detail in the shadows up there. They appear to be quite sharp. Mostly. Depth of field is tricky. I did okay. I wish my depth of field was a little bigger. But it's okay. Depth of field's always an issue on large format. It's decent. I'll have to scan it. Not many shots left. And then here's Velvia for that same scene. And then this one is super calm. Sharpness is pretty darn good. This one's really good. A hair movement, but it's okay. This one's good. This one's really sharp. So, okay, I feel okay about that shot. I was worried about how bright it is here, but I'm okay. Okay. I'm feeling a little better about this. I might have 3 photos now. It's a lot of film for just a handful of photos. But I'm used to that. Okay. And then the last sheet of Provia. So again on that same scene, and in terms of sharpness, pretty darn good. Yeah, this one's good. So I'll have a choice between Provia and Velvia on this scene. Provia being more subtle, Velvia being a little more heavy-handed, but I think the Velvia is probably a little closer to reality because these colors were pretty crazy intense. Glad I have the options. And then the last sheet of slide film on that same scene, Provia. Again, this one is very sharp. Now, what's weird is that I had some sheets of film from the scene where I seem to have some depth of field issues. Maybe I refocused or did something different between the exposures. I think that's what I did. I think I shot it differently and I changed a setting. But I'm glad I have both a Provia and a Velvia for the better one because this one is sharp all the way through from there to there. Okay. I'm feeling better about this. All right, so now color negative film. You guys won't be able to see too much from it, but I'll just give an opportunity to kind of see what's there. So here's a vertical. So it's a slot canyon, tree growing out there, big glow back there. And all I'm looking at here is, we'll check sharpness. It's about what I'd expect. So I'm sharp from about there all the way back to the tree, a little bit beyond. So again, I'll have to scan it. There's the whole thing though. I'll have to scan it, see how it does, but no real surprises there. This is that wash scene. So there's a big red maple, pine trees, the wash, and all I'm really going to check here is sharpness, and that appears to be quite good. I'm sure the slides from that scene will probably be fine, but I do have the color negative as a backup. Another variation of that same scene as the first one. So look forward to scanning that to see how that does. And another one of that same scene. So I don't know why I was exposing so much film on that, but I was. Here is a cottonwood that's kind of growing in a slot canyon. And the exposure was tricky. Trying to get the dark shadows in there, the bright highlights there. Again, I'll have to scan this one to see how it turns out. But there's an image there, which is all I care about at this point. And that same scene. So here's a photo in the Narrows. I'm going to have several different exposures of this scene. And these are some pretty crazy long exposures. One of them was like 11 minutes long, because there's a really dark wall right here, which looks like I have proper detail throughout, which is good. And then some bright highlights in there. So I'll have a trio of exposures here, that being one of them, that being another one, and that being another one. And honestly, as far as what I can tell here, I'm not really seeing any big differences, but that's how color negative film is. I mean, these range in exposure from 11 minutes to, I think, 6 minutes. But the key thing is that they all look pretty decent. So I look forward to scanning those and seeing how those do. Check sharpness. It's about exactly what I'd expect. The background looks decent as well. So, what do we learn? We learned that I shot a ton of film, and I honestly don't have an amazing feeling about the photos I shot. But maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's good because I have to think about them a little bit and then scan them in and kind of get a better feeling for how everything turned out. I think I have definitely a few keepers in the mix, but there is some strangeness with regard to the exposures and the sharpness on some of them. So that's something I'm gonna have to dig into. But I thought I'd come away with this saying, oh, I got so many great, awesome photos, but I got just a handful probably. But that's all that really matters in the long run. But now it's time to, first of all, grab some dinner. But then I'll start scanning stuff in, get a feel for how everything is, and hopefully there's something decent in there. But I'll say it's a slightly unsettled film reveal. I do wish I had a little better news to report, but we'll see how it all turns out. But I want to thank everyone for watching. We'll see you around next time. If you enjoy this ad-free and clickbait-free content and want to help me live my dream, a voluntary contribution of just $24 a year helps keep my gas tank full and my film freezer stocked. For more information on how to support me and my work, please visit the donation section of my website at benhorn.com/donate. I also have prints and my portfolio box set available on my website. You can find a direct link down below in the show notes. Thanks in advance for your support.